Looks like I'm ready for rollin' one. Well, now that I found the right set of equipment, I'm ready to start rollin' one. Batter up! Rollin' One is a quick, casual dice game, and its theme is golf. Yes, you are actually golfing on these uniquely designed holes. Every player at the table gets to design a hole, which is really the fun part about it, is you get to create a par 3, par 4, par 5, and you get to place the green tile, which has the hole, anywhere you want. And it's just fun because when you think you're making a challenge for someone else, you're actually making it a challenge for yourself as well. So there's so much fun with the designing of the actual holes, and then the gameplay is quite delightful despite there being huge upsets with dice rolls, getting some low percentage results on your dice that you really don't want. But overall the game is fun, is light, is fast, and I think it's just the neatest thing. Now, the thing that's also fun about it, there's a lot of luck with the dice rolling, but there's a lot of strategy there too. So when you play on your turn, what you do is you select one of the clubs that you want to use. Now, in the game, these clubs are represented by certain sided dice. So if you want to drive that ball low and far, you're going to use your wood. And there's a really high percentage, 50%, if you're in the woods and you roll the triangle symbol on the 20-sided die, you actually hit a tree and your ball stops. But if you're on the fairway and you're hopping over sand traps and who knows what, you could really drive the ball really far in a straight line. Now, the one disadvantage to the wood is that it can't turn. There are other clubs that you can pick that allow your ball to turn while you're actually rolling the dice in the middle of your turn, and that's really, really helpful. So what a player's going to do at the start of the round is design a hole. It's going to be either par 3, par 4, or par 5. And they get to just take the tiles, flip them over, check them out, and decide what length and what kinds of obstacles they want for that particular course. And then they will tee off. And every player on their turn will select that club and they will drive their ball with a wedge, with a 9-iron, with the wood. Maybe when you get close to the green, you're going to start putting. And each die functions differently and has different amounts of risk depending on where you are in the course. And that's what I like the most about it. These dice are really fun and unique. Players can actually interact with other players' balls. There's this kind of like pushing feature where if you end your turn where someone else's ball is, you push them forward, and that can really put them in a disadvantage, or in some cases it might actually bump them closer to the hole, which, you know, really cool. Now, the really interesting way that your ball travels during your turn depends on what you roll. And if you actually hit a number on that particular die, the next number you roll, which may not be the very next time you roll it, but the next time you roll a number, your number has to be higher than the previous rolled number. So on your D20, which is your wood, the numbers go 1 all the way to 10. And so there's a high likelihood that you're going to keep traveling further and further and further as you go. Now, one of the crazy things about this game, which I think is actually really cool and it makes sense logically and functionally, is that you have to keep rolling no matter what. You might be at the edge of the course and you're about to go off. If you roll a legal roll, you have to apply it. And if your ball goes outside of the actual hole, you take a penalty. And if you end your turn in a water space, you take a penalty. And so those are the two ways to really get those penalties. If you end your turn in a sand trap, the next time it's your turn, the very first roll you make doesn't actually get applied. And so you have to roll even more. So if you start your number with that first roll and you don't get to move out of the sand trap, and then you roll a lower number, essentially what you did was you were like, burr, and your ball went, and it just rolled right back down into the sand trap. And that's like really thematically on point. I like it. When your ball ends on the fairway, it actually slides to the next tile in the direction you were going, which could slide you right into a water, which of course is a penalty. And so all of these spaces function in a way that makes sense based on golfing in a golf course. If your ball lands in the rough, it just stops and it gets stuck kind of in that space, and then that's essentially, you don't slide anywhere, you don't get any penalties, you don't have any problems getting out the next turn like you do with the sand trap. But it could really, again, save your bacon, or it could be putting you in a really bad spot for your next time to swing your golf club. Every time it's your turn, you get to shift which direction you want to hit your golf ball, and you also get to select a different club if you'd like. And so there's so much choice and flexibility, and there are things that other players can do with their caddy cards to affect your turn. There are things you can do with your caddy cards to affect your turn, and I think that it's just so exciting. I had a great time playing it with larger, smaller groups. This game plays 1 to 5 players, and depending on the amount of players you have, you're going to play a certain number of holes so that everybody gets to design a hole. And I like, again, that you get to design your own hole. Putting it together, if you want a smaller course, a shorter one, you do par 3. You get to add like a lot of features like water or sand or a really nice giant fairway straight down the center that makes it easy to really hit with your wood and get super far and not get stopped by the trees. It's just loads and loads of fun. The dice are all wholly unique and make a lot of sense, and you get to choose. You essentially get to choose, okay? Now, if I want to just like pop the ball up, get really high, and just drop it, you might choose one of the dice that has the dots. Now, if it has a dot on it, that essentially ends your turn, and you go exactly the number of dots that's stated on the die. So if you use the 6-sided die, you're going to pop it up. Let's say you get the 3, you go 1, 2, 3, boom. That's where your ball ends, but it might be exactly where you need to be to set you up for the very next shot so that you don't keep rolling and rolling and rolling and run into, you know, off the course into the wall and then bounce back and get a penalty. It's loads of fun. You'll be hooting and hollering. You know, don't get too bent out of shape. If you have a really, really bad hole, that's why there are multiple holes, because you can get 5 or 6 points in one, and the next time you come in first and no one else can really get close to the hole and you got no penalties, and then you get essentially a 0 or maybe a low number like a 1 or 2. And so that's how you kind of average out your scores. So it's okay if you have a bad hole. Everyone has a bad hole. It's just fun. Oh, I can't say how much fun I had. I mean, it's just really, really cool. Thematically and mechanics wise, it just fits. Like, it just functionally feels like you're actually playing golf, but not playing golf. I mean, we're not doing anything dexterous here. These are just dice. But I think what they've done is they've really designed these dice to match the clubs and the function of the clubs, and a way for you to navigate the actual hole that feels like this simulation of golf. And I just really like it. I like it a lot. It's a fun game. It's a small box game, and so it'll come out, and the dice are really fun to play with, and dice are fun to roll. And I think there's just enough luck here balanced with the strategy of playing your caddy cards and choosing the dice that you want to play with. The other fun feature to this game is that everybody has a golfer card, which gives them a specific power that nobody else has. And these specific powers can be really, really great if used at just the right moment to manipulate your turn and the game outcome. So don't forget to play with those golfer cards. There are also tons of variants in the game. They actually list in the game rules, well, maybe you should play your cards like this, maybe you should play like this, have you tried doing this? And so it gives you kind of this flexibility of play after you've played it a time or two, and maybe you want something, you know, to change up just a little bit, but you should play through with all the different golfers and their abilities. And you should also play through so that you actually get to see the caddy cards and what variety of those caddy cards there are and how you can use those on your turn. So there's enough flexibility here. There's definitely enough strategy and luck balance, in my opinion, and the theme perfectly matches the actual functionality of the game. And so I think it's kind of that perfect match for a lovely half-hour dice rolling game that surprised me. It surprised me how much I liked it. So if you can get your hands on this, I know again this was a Kickstarter backed game, but if you can, let me know in the comments, and hopefully you'll get a chance to play Roll-in-One sooner than later. Neither of us really play golf. These are my dad's clubs that he bought and left in my basement so that he can play golf when he visits. So thank you for the prop.